Hello class. Today we're going to go over the next project, which is nonlinear editing video project. Sorry, I think I have a little bit of head cold, so I might sound a little bit weird. Or maybe I sound more manly, I'm not sure. So this is going to be a short project. I just want you to experiment. Don't worry about having a great idea. The idea here is just to play around with the program, Premiere. I'm going to go over a little bit about some examples first, and then we'll come back and talk about the project. So I'd like you to look at all these examples first. All these examples that I'm showing will use existing video to make new works. And after you watch these, there's 1, here's 2, here's 3, here's 4, here's 5. 5 videos to watch, different artists using existing video. I'll talk about these later and what each mean to me and why I think they're interesting works. But I'd like you to watch them just to see what's possible. Now again, in this project you're going to use existing footage that we find on YouTube. And to download from YouTube you use either of these two links or whatever you're used to using. I like to use Off Liberty, the site here. And so what you do is you're going to go to YouTube, go to whatever video you like, copy the address and paste it here. And then hit this off button. And this should cycle through. Sometimes videos work, sometimes they don't. So try another video. Sometimes Off Liberty is down, and so you can try the other link that I put here. And this is a constant battle between companies like these that try to get through YouTube's parameters that don't allow you to do this. So sometimes this works, sometimes this doesn't. In Off Liberty, you'll see that this works here. It says right click here and save link as, so do that. And then it's going to come up here. It's going to send, in my case, it's going to send it to the desktop. You can send it wherever you like. Make sure you put it somewhere safe so that it doesn't get deleted by somebody else. I've already downloaded this. I retitled it, called it blah. But I'll just call it blah 2 and save it. And then it should download. And now we have a video. For starters, you can just download one video to play with and then come back and download other videos for the music or for the visuals or for both to work on. Now, I talked about how this is called nonlinear editing video. And all that means is that it's a return to how film used to be produced. So here's film. You could cut up sections, any section you wanted, and put them back together with this sort of machine to staple them together. So that's nonlinear editing because you don't have to follow a linear path from point A to point B. You can go anywhere on the film stock, make a cut, add, subtract, whatever. When they move to tape, that is what's called linear editing, where you have one tape and the tape starts at point A and ends at point B, because that's how tape works. And so someone would have to come in here, have sections ready to record onto the master tape in order, in a linear fashion. And so what moving to a digital computer program has allowed us to go back to nonlinear editing, which is a much better way of working. Let's go over a little bit about what expectations are here. Your video cannot be longer than 1.5 minutes. It can actually even be a lot shorter. They must be short edits, no long cuts. I don't want to watch existing video that someone else made or you found for a long period of time. I want you to focus on the cuts, the correlations that happen when you edit video together. And I think that'll come through when you watch the examples that I've given. All right? I think we're ready now to go into Premiere. So we're going to open up Premiere. I'm going to show it in CS5 only. Those of you that have your own computers and work with Creative Cloud, you can either work on our computer. If you really want to work with Creative Cloud on your laptop in Premiere, I can record another demo that goes over the differences in Creative Cloud. When you open up Premiere, this comes up, this dialog box appears. We're going to make a new project. You'll see a new project. The important part we need to see right here is where it's going. So the location, mine's going to AA projects. Make sure you have it someplace safe where no one can mess with it. And then retitle it. So I'm going to call this trash because I know I'm going to throw it away later. These other things you don't need to worry about. They should be standardized. Timecode, audio sample. Oh, that shouldn't have been changed. If it is, let me know. I can take a look at it. And so I already have this project, so I'm just overwriting it. What should come up next is this option for a new sequence. I'll go over what some of these terms mean. These are the presets for all video that exists in the world, both now and in the past. We have DV, NTSC. That's the term that was used for the size that existed before widescreen. So that, you know, the cathode ray tube TVs was called NTSC. And you'll notice right here you have some frame size settings, 720 by 480. PAL was for the European version. And then down here are where our contemporary new ones exist. Also up here, I think, too. Yeah. So I'll just show you one of these. Now let's see here. What's the better one that's easier to go over? No, we'll just use HTV. There we go. This has a lot of options. You'll notice these settings here. We have 1080i 25. To go over quickly what these means, 1080 is the amount of pixels in a vertical frame. And I'm sure you've heard that term before. Likewise, 720. The I refers to how frames are shown. Interlaced, or I, stands for interlaced, and that just means that in a sequence, images, bars, like 1, 2, 3 bars, are shown, and then right after that, bars 2, 4, 6 are shown, right? And so if you ever see video that looks like it has kind of jagged edges when it moves fast, that's because it hasn't been properly deinterlaced. And this is how things used to be shown. They would show you in such quick succession bars on the even and then bars on the odd, and they would happen so fast that your eyes, of course, blend those together. P stands for progressive. What progressive means is that each frame appears kind of like how you would read a book. So at the top left, it just very quickly scrolls down all the way to the right, and that's a progressive scan. The final number we have here is the frame rate. So this is the resolution. This is the type of way that the frames appear. And then this is how many frames per second, FPS. Typically, old cinema, 24 frames per second. And you'll notice the difference if you watch things. 24 frames per second for cinema, 30 frames per second for video. A lot of movies nowadays go up to 60. Some animations actually shot at 24, but then there's only actually 12 drawings, so they shoot on 2s. That's what all that means. So after going over all of that, we're just going to actually cancel this. So you can't see here. Let me hide my... I'll just click on it and see if I can click on it. I'm gonna actually cancel this. You can't see this because I've zoomed in a little bit here. But we're going to cancel that. So we don't actually need to save a sequence because we're going to let the video do the work. So here we are in Premiere. First thing we need to do is let's make sure that we all are looking at the same workspace. So we go to Window, Workspace, and we're going to reset current workspace of editing. So make sure you go to Editing, and you reset the current workspace. And then you should look exactly like I do here. It might look a little bit different on Macs. I'll go over the things as we come to them. We're going to first start over here with the project window, which is the upper left-hand corner. To bring in a video, we're going to double-click in this negative space. You can also right-click and go to Import. You can also go to File and go down to Import. But of course, the easiest way is just to double-click in this empty area here. And then I'm going to locate my video, which I put on the desktop, and hit Open. So it has imported the files. You'll see that I have a video file here now. The next step is to double click this video, and that brings it up over here. This is your source viewer. This is where you look at the things that are your source. Now you'll hear audio. I turned off my speakers so that you can hear me talk, but as you scrub through here, you will hear audio. You'll also notice that it looks jagged and has a lot of artifacts. That's the magic of working in Premiere. That's not a defect, that's how it works. So don't get too weirded out or upset. So you'll notice right off the bat that I'm scrubbing this way, right, is a way to do that. You can also scrub with this jog wheel. You can also go ahead and press the space bar and see what happens. Space bar makes it play. Again, you'll notice artifacts, don't worry about that. Also, use the letters J, K, and L Try those. If you press J, you'll go in reverse. Press K, you'll stop. Press L, you'll go forward. And then you can also use these in conjunction or on top of each other. If you press L twice, it's going to go fast. If you hold down K and then hold down L, you're going to do slow motion, and you'll actually hear the audio too, right? Pretty cool. So that's how you can move around. And that's what you want to do. Normally you're going to download and import videos. You're going to come in here and you're going to find the section you want. So let's say I want Paris Hilton. You can also use the arrows. And so I use the arrows a lot when I know I'm close to the part that I want. You can use the left arrows and right arrows to get to the exact location you want. So I want to have her and not her, right? So I'm going to go to this frame right here. And the idea is I want to set what's called ins and outs to my source and then bring it into my sequence to start editing. And there's a number of ways to do that. I know I want this to be the beginning. I can click this button here. It says set in point. You'll also notice I have a shortcut key, and that's I. I press I, you'll notice my bar changes. I'm telling Premiere now I want this to be the endpoint that I'm going to work with and bring in here. I'm going to go forward. So I pressed L to go forward and just kind of watch it until maybe I want it right there. I could keep going until, it actually cuts to the other scene, and then go back with the arrow keys or holding down K and J to get to that exact point. And now I'm going to set the out point, which of course, as you may imagine, is right here, or O, which is fantastic. They're right next to each other. And now I have, you can see a little section is what I've told Premiere that I want. Now the trick is to get it down into this sequence. For the first time that you do this, you can't actually drag and drop it in here. You'll see that it says you can't do that. I just came up here and I grabbed her face, right? So I just, anywhere in the video, just click, drag, and you can't bring it in right away. For the first video that you bring in, you actually have to bring it over here to where this new tab is, right next to the trash can, and then let go. What's going to happen is that this now makes a sequence. You see in your project window, you see the different icon. It makes a sequence that is the exact same size of your videos. And I did it this way instead of at the very beginning where you had this dialog box where I don't know, I might not know the exact settings. This way is better working. Find the video you want first, drag and drop into this one, and now you have it into a sequence. You'll notice that right away you have a new viewer, right? And this is your workspace, your sequence window. This is your source window. This is your sequence window. They're different. Down here you have the actual timeline, the sequence. So you'll notice I have a little section here. To see more of that, there's a zoom right here. So you can zoom in and zoom out. Tiny mountain, big mountain. And you can zoom in and out to see more of your video. You'll notice as I zoom in, you actually see some of the audio wavelength there. All right. So you've brought in your video down here, and you notice now that you scrub here, J, K, and L, spacebar, arrows work the same as they do up here. You'll notice it only changes over here, not over here. Right off the bat, if you actually, maybe you didn't get enough footage, you didn't bring in the right amount, there is no need to come up here and reset it. You just come down here and do what's called a slip edit. And so how you do a slip edit is you pull your mouse close to the edge, and then you pull or retract, and that's called a slip edit. So now I have more of that, right? I didn't have to come back up here and get it. I'm going to Control Z and go back to where I had it. All right? Very straightforward. That's a slip edit, can work anywhere. You can also, of course, and I'll show this as I bring some more down. So you can either take more from the same download that you did, or you can go get different downloads. My expectation is that you would bring in a few videos, maybe 2, maybe 3. I don't really care exactly how many, but don't just use one video and cut it up unless you have a phenomenal idea. Again, I'm going to set an in, scrub forward, set an out. And now this time, instead of dragging this into the new button, I'm going to drag this one down, directly down into here, right? And then you'll see I can place it, right? And that's how you're going to do it. You can drag and drop videos here and then rearrange them down here. So I have a big gap here, so I can just move that over. If yours do not snap like this, you'll see that mine snapped to that edge. you can make sure that that is set under sequence to snap. If that's off, it's not going to work like that. It might be kind of confusing. So make sure snap is on. And then you can just, if you're just doing simple editing, you could literally just bring in your ins and your outs, do some simple slip edits, and stack them however you want. Let's get another one here. This time I'm not going to care at all what I get, and bring that in. All right. And so let's talk about how we move these we'll talk about cutting and moving these as you bring these in here. So you see how I just kind of drag them around, right, wherever I want. Let's say I want to move this larger video to actually be in between these videos. There's no need to move this over and then move this back over here. Just grab this one, and as I come to here, you'll see on my mouse how it's telling me that it's going to drop it in there. If I do that, you'll see that it has erased what existed there. So let me undo that. We had this one here. If I click and drag this one, if you look at my mouse, it says it's going, that icon tells me that it's going to overwrite that, right? So instead, if I click and drag and hold down Control, you'll notice that it changes. It's going to push that little cut edit to the right side. And so now it hasn't overwritten it. And again, that's Control on the PCs. All right. You can also make cuts here. Generally in this first project, I assume you'll only use slip edits like this and the razor, which is up here. So the razor is for when you want to make a little cut into the sections you have, right? And then either move it, right? Rearrange it, or even cut it. So if you want to cut it, you can just literally click on it and hit delete. You'll notice in this case, I actually still have a gap here. And so you can just then right click on this and hit ripple delete. And so now there's no longer a cut there. You can also save yourself a step and just right click and do the ripple delete immediately. And then you have no space there. All right, pretty straightforward. That's how you can arrange things in a nonlinear line on video 1 and video 2, or an audio 1. Let's talk about duplicating and some other things. So I'm going to delete this piece here. I'm going to click on this. Let's say I want to make multiple, like just play this one over and over again, like have it loop. I click on it and I copy it, which is Control C. It's literally copy. I'm going to scrub forward. If I hold down Shift, it will snap to the end. And then I can paste. I can Control V. I can Control V like 5 times. So now it's going to just play that clip again and again for that long. If you want to make it loop so that it doesn't jump back and forth, you can right click on it. So it's really great. Premiere, you just literally click on it, delete it, or right click on it, and you get all these options right here. I can go to speed and duration, and I can reverse the speed on every other one, right? So now this one is going forward and then backward, then forward again, and then I could do it to this one also. Again, right click, speed, duration, reverse speed, hit OK. Right click, speed, duration, reverse speed, hit OK. You'll notice right here is that this bar has now turned red. This one is yellow. This means that this has not rendered. And so if you come in here and press the space bar, it might look particularly bad, or it might need to be re-rendered, right? And how you can do that is generally you don't look at the entire sequence as you work in Premiere. You kind of move this bar, right? Like generally, as people that work in film, you can't look at everything at once because that just takes too much. It's too demanding of your computer. The RAM, it's the frames save to the RAM, and so yeah, you just can't look at the entire sequence as you work. So you make this bar shorter, you come up to sequence, and you can render effects in the work area or render the entire work area. You'll also notice there's a shortcut key here depending on Mac or PC for enter. So I'm going to render this, and this is rendering to the RAM, and it will save that to the RAM, and then it should turn green. And so now it should play back nicely and shouldn't look too compressed. If it is, let me know and I can come look at it. But yeah, you won't look at the entire thing. You'll look at tiny sections, say, oh, does that work? Does that not work? And then come back in and make selections. Once you're happy with, like, oh, I think this might work, you can render out the whole thing as a video and then watch it as a video, which I'll show in a bit. Excuse me. All right, so we cut, we moved around, we copied, we pasted. Let's see here, we did a slip edit. Let's talk about using other things. You can also, of course, use these other videos layers and audio layers. For instance, so if you want like a different audio, that's something you'll probably do. I'm going to click in here and I'm going to grab some audio. You guys can see what I'm listening to. Whatever. And again, this isn't going to play because I have my speaker off so you can hear me. You'll notice I have a different icon, right? I can double click on this. You can see the wavelength, and you can, of course, just like the video, set your ins and your outs, or just bring the whole thing down. So that's what I'll do. I will set an in or out, and again, I have no knowledge of what this actually even is because I can't hear it. And then I can just drag. Now you'll notice you can't drag from the image here. You have to use this button. So I can drag the audio only, and I can put that into audio 2, right? And so now I have audio 2. In this case, since I have audio 1 on and audio 2 on, you will hear both. They will mix together. If you don't want to hear audio 1, you can just turn that off right there. And then now you would only hear the music. And then you can kind of listen to the music, render it, and see where you need to add the videos. Like follow the prompts from the music to make a video. And that would be a great project for this small project, is to grab a song you like, a minute and a half or less of it, and start just adding video that kind of matches that. There's one of the examples I've shown does that exactly. Let me go back to the video itself. You can also just bring in audio or just the video here. So for this case, you'll see the same thing. It's got these little icons. So if you make a new in or out, and you just grab the film, you can have the film on top, and you can stack these like you would in Photoshop. Kind of make this small so you can see. So you can add an infinite amount of video layers, and right now this one is of course obstructing this one. So let's talk about how to change the sizes of this if you want. You'll notice up here, let's double click this. We'll double click this, and you'll notice that now the source window is talking about this. So make sure you double click on this first. If you don't do that, you'll affect something else. To the right of the actual title of the work, you have what's called effect controls. And this is where you'll have these options to change the motion. So you can change the positioning. These are hotkeys. You literally just drag these left or right. Or you can come over here and actually like move it around visually like Photoshop. You'll notice you also have handlebars to change the transformation. Premiere automatically keeps things in proportion, so you don't need to worry about that. So I could make this smaller visually, or using the hotkeys, right? Scale. Can also just click on it once and type in a number. And so now it's going to be 25% scale. And then I can hotkey it over and hotkey it over. So you could have picture in picture for this project if you wanted to, if that makes sense. Now, I don't want to get too complicated. Don't feel like you have to do this next thing, but this is just to show you what you can do. You can also animate these things. You can animate position and scale, anything with a stopwatch next to it, right? Again, you don't have to do this. Just know that it's possible. So what we'll do is let's make this scale up. So I'll kind of scroll down so you can see better. So we'll make this kind of appear out of nowhere. I'm going to go to the beginning of this. Oops. I can hold down Shift so I can go to the very beginning. And I'm going to turn on the stopwatch for scale and then actually crank it down to 0. And what it makes is made a keyframe for this particular scale, right? It's at 0. It doesn't exist. I'm going to scrub forward. You can either scrub forward down here or up here, doesn't matter. And we'll just have it, maybe we'll have it jump in really quick. So I'll go about right here. And then I'm just going to change this number. And what happens is Premiere automatically knows that you want to make a keyframe there. You don't have to add a keyframe. So it's made a keyframe, and now the scale is 37%. And so what happens is now it animates. It interpolates that data to come in, and then you could also maybe eventually, let's say you want it to stay here for a little bit and then go away. You want to actually add a keyframe here so that it holds at 37. Scrub forward again, and then drop it back down to 0. Right? So now what's going to happen is it's going to come in, stay for a little bit, and then jump out. And you can do this for this project. You don't have to. You can literally just come in here and do edits. And all these other things work. Rotation, right? You can animate them. Positioning, all these things can be changed and can be animated. All right? Let's go back over here. You can also deal with, we have opacity. So you can also play around with opacity. You don't have to. We talked about the blend modes in Photoshop. They are here also, and they do different things. So you can play around with these. Don't feel like you have to. Maybe don't get too funny with this stuff. Maybe I shouldn't even have showed it. So maybe I'll turn it off so we don't have it. And I'll delete this some back to the original timeline. The other thing you can do is transitions. So you'll notice this. In this case, I have a jump cut from this to this, right? And that's totally fine. I like jump cuts. You can keep them to be jump cuts. But if you want to transition, you'll find those over here on the bottom left-hand corner of Premiere under what's called Effects. You click on Effects, and you'll notice you have some options here. We're going to use Video Transitions, and there's a lot of options here. 3D motion, dissolve, irises, maps, page peels. Feel free to play around with these. I generally, if I don't do a jump edit, I just do a dissolve, and so I can add a cross dissolve. And so all you do is you actually grab this and you hold it over the gap between the two videos that you want, and then now you have a transition, right? A cross dissolve transition. You'll notice again that it's red, so I could again, I'm gonna make my bar smaller just to make this faster. Come up to sequence and render effects in work area. And so now, so you see how the yellow plays choppy and it's actually kind of cool, but the green doesn't. I could come back up here and I could just render entire work area and it'll turn the whole thing green and you can look at it and say, hey, does that cross dissolve work? These transitions can be adjusted if you double click on them. I'll zoom in because I can't grab it nicely. So yeah, you'll do a lot of this, zooming in, zooming out, and double click on the cross dissolve. And then over here, you'll notice your effect controls changes to allow you to change the transition. If you want the transition to happen for longer, you can just slip edit it in and out. And so now this cross dissolve will happen for longer. All right. And that should be it. That should be enough to allow you to play around with this project. The last thing I'd like to show you is maybe titles. If you want to add a title, don't feel like you have to do this. But if you want to add text, overlays, whatever, that's found up here under title. You click on new title. We're going to do a default still. These all do different things. Stills, rolls, crawls, right? Click on that and this appears. And so this, you can type in whatever, right? You can change your text up here. You can change your color. Where is the color? Over here. The spacing, the font family over down here, the center, all the stuff. And then you just close this out. You don't have to save it. It already makes a title here, and then you can drag and drop this to be above this, and of course it's going to appear right there. You can also, there's all sorts of ways to like animate these, all sorts of stuff I can show you. I won't show it in here, but if you have questions on that, that should get you there. And that should be it. That should be enough to play around with Premiere, make a project using existing video, and that should be it. Thank you.